You're listening to a Frequency Podcast Network production.
The Brock and Dalby Podcast.
This is the Brock and Dalby Podcast.
Welcome to Friday. I'm Dalby. Brock was not on the show today because he was at the Sum 41 concert in St. Catharines yesterday with his boys, taking in one of the last shows before Sum 41 goes away for at least a little while. So it was a solo show today. We'll be back to full strength on the show and the podcast coming on Monday, and we're very excited because the show is actually growing a little bit. We will be able to tell you more details on that, I believe, sometime next week. But for now, here's today's podcast.
The Brock and Dalby Podcast.
The Brock and Dalby Podcast.
Say what you want about Donald Trump, and I have on this show and elsewhere. The man is a wild card. It is very difficult to guess what he's going to do next. But he signed an order as the president of the United States demanding that all the documents on the JFK, RFK, and Martin Luther King assassinations be made public. And within the next couple months, too. I think he said that they have 15 days to come up with a plan to release all of the JFK stuff, and then 45 days for the RFK stuff and the Martin Luther King stuff. And I'm not going to lie, as an amateur conspiracy theorist tourist, someone who likes to dabble, I like to walk through the odd wild tale or two, I'm actually looking forward a lot to seeing what comes out of this. Will there be some sort of bombshell announcement? Will we find out some conspiracy that has been parroted for years on end was actually the truth? Will it turn out that this was all just very boring and was as was reported in the news? Also, will anyone care? Remember, they declassified a bunch of alien news. Essentially, the government of the United States confirmed extraterrestrial life to some extent, and people all went, yeah, sure, okay. Yeah, that's right on, cool. But also, let's not just stop here, right? This is a big opportunity. Donald Trump has decided he wants to pull the wig off the whole thing. He wants to just show us everything that's going on out there. So let's keep going. JFK, MLK, yes. Maybe let's toss in some 9/11 documents, right? Give me a side of moon landing stuff, a little investigation on the moon landing. Let's go there. You got any flat earth that we can share? What about some Bigfoot? Any Bigfoot on the menu today? Let's go whole hog on this thing, Donnie T. Open the books. Prove to me that birds are real and not just spy drones. I want the president to sign an order that finally reveals the 10th dentist that doesn't believe in Colgate Total. Tell me all the truths, Donald.
The Brock and Dalby Podcast.
I don't often take the time to pat myself on the back for knowing stuff, but I'm going to do that right now because last week on this show, about this time as a matter of fact, I told you who was going to win the divisional playoff games in the NFL, and I went 3 for 4, and I even did it based off of something maybe a little bit weird to some people, but I made my picks based on which city represented in each game had the best food. I took Kansas City barbecue over Houston. I took Buffalo wings over Baltimore and crab cakes. Philadelphia cheesesteaks easily defeated the LA Rams. I did take Detroit-style pizza over Washington and whatever it is that they have there. I don't even remember. That was the only one I was wrong on. But I wanted to see if this gift of prognostication, this gift for gambling, runs in the family. So yesterday at bedtime, I brought my son, Marcus, into my home studio, and I asked him who he thought would win. We've got 2 big games coming up this weekend, both on Sunday. Got Kansas City hosting Buffalo, Washington in Philadelphia. The winners go on to the Super Bowl. Here's who my son thinks you should be gambling on this weekend. I'm here with Marcus, my son, 8 years old. Marcus, how much football do you watch?
Not that much.
Okay. I'm going to ask you to predict who's going to win the 2 playoff football games this weekend, okay?
Okay.
Okay, the first game we have is the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills.
I think the Buffalo Bills are going to win.
Okay, explain why you're picking the Buffalo Bills to win the game.
They're Buffaloes, right? They should be pretty fast.
Okay, I mean, good enough reason as any. Is there anything about Kansas City you don't like?
No, I don't know anything about the 2 teams except for their names.
Okay, so Buffalo Bills winning on the one side. On the other side, you have the Philadelphia Eagles and the Washington Commanders.
Washington Commanders. Because George Washington.
Because that's a name that you know?
Yes.
But, like, you know what an eagle is, right? You still think George Washington Commanders win?
Yeah.
Okay, last thing I want you to predict, because I just think it would be really funny. What do you think the score is going to be? Buffalo versus Kansas City first. If Buffalo's going to win, what's going to be the final score?
10-4.
10-4, okay. And then Washington beats Philadelphia. What's the score there?
10-4.
10-4 in both games. Okay, and so here's the deal. I'm going to take the money that I have saved up so far in the 8 years you've been alive for your college fund, and I'm going to bet it on those two teams. So if you're wrong, you do not get to go to college, okay?
Please, I want to go to college.
All right, there you go. If both games end 10-4 this weekend on Sunday, and the Super Bowl is the Washington Commanders taking on the Buffalo Bills, just remember, my 8-year-old son is a football genius. And if either of those predictions are wrong, you put all the blame on the kid.
The Brock and Dalby Podcast.
All right, we're doing a top 5 today. A hotly contested top 5, if I'm being completely honest with you. I asked all of you to tell me what is the greatest breakfast food item of all time. And not only the number of answers we got, but the passionate explanations of those answers. People care about their breakfast foods, and it warmed my heart. But let's get in and start at number 5. This one surprised me, but oatmeal cracks the top 5 for the sheer sustenance of it. A lot of people said overnight oats, microwave oatmeal, all the different options. You can add seasonings and toppings and yogurts and all the options to make it so much more than just a bunch of wet grains. Not to mention, pretty cheap, pretty easy, and fills you up like not much else can to start your day. In at number 4, French toast, a decadent breakfast option. Let's take some bread, soak it in eggs, fry it in butter, then drench it in sugar and syrup. Then spend the rest of the morning trying to fight off a diabetic coma. French toast could be higher on the list, I won't lie. It's so good. But the fact is, French toast is also easy to screw up. There's too many people that suck at French toast out there trying to make French toast because they saw it at a buffet or at a TV show or a YouTube video. And there's not much worse than biting into an undercooked, soggy piece of egg bread to set a lousy tone for the morning. When it's good, it's great. But when it's bad, it's brutal. Number 3, guys, it's waffles. And waffles are the better part of the trio. And that is waffles, French toast, pancakes. There's no gentle way to say it. They just provide more options. Sure, it's a little more work to make a waffle than a pancake or French toast. If it's too much to you, you can buy waffles from the freezer that you put in the toaster that are still fantastic. And they come with tiny little boxes that you fill with syrup and toppings. It's silly that this is a debate. French toast is number 2, and pancakes are a distant number 3, and I will argue that until the end of days. Number 2 on our top 5 today, it's bacon. Bacon is a whole-ass personality for some people. People will talk about bacon with more passion in their voice than when they talk about their own children, and I get it. Bacon is delicious on its own or as part of a bigger picture, like a bacon and egg breakfast or a sandwich. Not to mention that bacon is delicious all day. It's not just a breakfast food. You can have it with pretty much anything. But I do think that holds it back from being considered the king of the breakfast food, which is at number 1, it's eggs. Eggs are the linchpin of a successful breakfast just by their sheer dominance of the menu, and your text agreed with that. You've got fried eggs, poached eggs, scrambled eggs, over easy, over hard, sunny side up, omelet, Benedict in the egg cup. They're the key to a breakfast sandwich, a breakfast wrap. Eggs are breakfast, and it is undeniable.
This is the Brock and Dalby Podcast.
Finally saw a Tesla Cybertruck in the wild yesterday. Feels like winning a scavenger hunt no one wanted to play. What a monstrosity of a vehicle. And I'm sorry if the driver is someone who listens to the show, or if there are others that I just haven't seen and you listen to the show and you also drive a Cybertruck. I'm not judging you personally. I don't judge you on who you are, the character, your person. I just never thought that when I saw that episode of The Simpsons where Homer designs the worst car of all time, that someone would also watch it and go, man, I hope I can buy one someday. I will say, though, it was pretty neat to see it in the real world. Like, I don't want one. I don't like them. But you see them online all the time. Seeing it in the real world was kind of cool. There's all this hype both for it and against it. It's like seeing a double rainbow to actually see it yourself. Especially, I feel like seeing it during a Canadian winter. Like, it feels shocking because nothing about the Tesla Cybertruck screams vehicle I'd count on during this weather. But maybe it's because I'm just not a big car guy. It's also got to be tough, though, because if you're like one of 3 people in town with a specific car, especially one that stands out because it has PlayStation 2 graphics for a design, you have to be a really good driver. Otherwise, everyone's going to know you're the person that cut them off on the highway or parked like a dingus at the rink. You know, like if there's only one Cybertruck in town and you cut somebody off, everybody's going to know that it was you that was driving like a dink. It's like when people get custom plates with their own name on it. Great. Now I know who to cuss at when you act like an ass on the road. It would feel like having your mom watching over your shoulder and judging you at all times when you're behind the wheel. The stress would kill me. I've thought about like, oh, wouldn't it be fun to get a Dolby license plate? No, because then if I drive even slightly out of the lines, someone's going to be like, that's that Dolby guy from the radio station. Screw that guy. I hate that guy. Actually, the real clever thing would be to get a custom license plate with somebody who you don't like's name on it. And then that way, when you drive like a jerk, everybody thinks that it's them and they hold them accountable. That's actually really funny. But hey, shout out to Cybertruck guy. Just try and keep her between the lines next time, all right?
The Brock and Dalby Podcast.
We got a text from Ryan, who made another great point, and that's how awful it is to drive a company-branded vehicle. And we have some here with the radio station. They have our logo plastered all over the side of them. You can't miss them. When we get behind the wheel and we take them out into the world, you see us. And it is the worst driving experience of all time. If you've never driven in a vehicle that has your company's logo on it, you don't know the stress of having to try and be the best driver you have ever been. And not only to do your best of like letting people into traffic, making sure you're not cutting anybody off. You cannot speed, not even by 1 kilometer an hour. And also, you cannot get mad at the other drivers, right? If someone's on their phone at a green light, you can't start laying on the horn to tell them to get going because they're not going to recognize you as someone that has now upset them. They're going to recognize your company as someone who has now upset them. Like, it's bad for business to be behind the wheel of a company vehicle and do anything less than drive like you are on your driver's exam. If you upset anybody, it's going to be a call to your boss. I was on the road and someone driving your truck cut me off and told me I was a bad driver. It is insanely stressful. So to all the people out there that are driving work trucks, company trucks, logoed vehicles, I feel you as you hit the roads this morning. Try and keep her between the lines, and good luck.
The Brock and Dalby Podcast.
The Brock and Dalby Podcast.
The owner of the Minnesota Wild was on a podcast with Pierre Maguire and kind of accidentally revealed that Gary Bettman, the NHL commissioner, the figurehead of the league and maybe the most hated man in sports, is considering retirement. He said that basically the league is in good shape, every team is strong, and the fact that Gary's retiring is a concerning factor. Then he quickly stopped himself, was like, Gary's not retiring right now, but a couple years down the road, he's going to retire, and we're planning on what the league will look like when he's gone. So I would say if the owners of NHL teams are starting to prepare for a post-Gary Bettman world, then the rest of us should probably do that too. Not that there's much for us to do, but I will say this. If you're a fan of a Canadian NHL team, you are going to have to probably come up with a new scapegoat. In the next few years, you're not going to be able to say that the only reason your team or a Canadian team hasn't won the Stanley Cup in a while is because Gary Bettman hates Canada.
The Brock and Dalby Podcast.
Donald Trump is back in the White House. He is the president, and as with most presidents, had some remodeling done to the Oval Office to make it his own again. Easily the funniest thing that he did is he immediately had his Diet Coke button reinstalled to the presidential desk. If you didn't hear about it 4 years ago, Trump has always had a button on his desk that anytime he presses it, someone on his staff runs in with a Diet Coke for the president, sort of like having a very, very specific type of butler. And listen, I get it. I don't want to make fun of him because if I had power that he has, I can't guarantee I wouldn't use it on something stupid like Diet Coke delivery. But even then, I feel like the man is just thinking too small. You're the president. You are the ruler of the free world, according to all the slogans and jargon. You don't need some schmuck grabbing a fresh can of Diet Coke out of the presidential beer fridge, running it in, all shaken up. Here you go, Mr. President. What a mess. Go next level, Donald. Have a full-on Coke freestyle machine installed in the Oval Office, your own soda machine. Imagine you're in a meeting with foreign dignitaries. You're discussing policy. You're arguing over the price of oil. And suddenly you stand up and pour yourself a sweet mix of Diet Coke and a splash of orange Fanta. That's a power move, Don. Or even better, go full eccentric billionaire and hire someone to play a 1950s soda jerk to stand behind the desk all day and make you sodas and malted milkshakes on demand. He could wear the old-style paper hat and speak in 1950s slang and jargon, which is basically how Donald Trump speaks to us some days. So I feel like it would make him feel like he was right at home to have a soda jerk in the Oval Office.
This is the Brock and Dalby Podcast.
Crikey. Time for animal impressions with Croc and Digby. Sorry, Brock and Dalby.
That's right, another round of Win Stuff with Brock and Dalby. Your chance to win $100 today in Lotto Max tickets. Got a $15 million jackpot up for grabs, and you could be winning it. Why not you? Why would it be anybody else when it could be you? All you've got to do is be one of our contestants on the line and give us your best shot at the Okapi. Have a listen to this thing. It is a giraffe zebra-looking hybrid from the rainforests of the Congo. And we've got 3 contestants on the line who are each going to take a shot at their best Okapi impression. Whichever one does the best job ends up with the $100 from OLG. So let's go to line number 1. Brock and Dalby Show. Who's this?
Hey, it's Bobby.
Bobby, what's going on, brother?
Oh, another day, another dollar.
Attaboy. Well, let's see if we can't turn it into $100, and then you can turn that into a few million, all right?
Hell yeah.
All right, the Okapi is what we're looking for today. You ever heard of it before?
Nope.
All right, well, here it is. Now it's your turn. What do you got for me, brother? Very nicely done, Bobby. Hot start. I love that when we get our first caller is into it. You know, they bring the whole ass. It sets the tone for the rest of the game. So that's Bobby. Brock and Dalby Show. Who's this?
Hey, it's Jeremy.
Jeremy. This is the Okapi. You ever heard of it before?
No, I haven't.
See, we're all learning stuff this week, and that's what's important. Jeremy, you think you can beat Bobby?
I'll give it a try.
All right, one more time. Take it away. Very nicely done, Jeremy. Hang on. We had Bobby. We had Jeremy. Line number 3. Brock and Dalby Show. Who's this?
Hey, it's Mark.
Mark, welcome to the program. How are you on a Friday?
Oh, not bad.
Okay, we're looking for the Okapi today. Now, Mark, you're in the sweet spot. You got to hear what the other 2 did. You can adjust based on that. Do you think you have what it takes to beat both Bobby and Jeremy today?
I think I might.
All right, here it is. Let's hear your Okapi. It sounds like if you gave Mickey Mouse laughing gas. That's very good. 3 very strong competitors today on Win Stuff with Brock and Dalby. Again, we had Bobby, Jeremy, and Mark. Now it's up to you guys. Who do we give this to? Because they were all fantastic. Text 762-555 with your votes. Bobby has the early lead, but line 1 always has the advantage of being the first one out of the gate. And Bobby, I see you voting for yourself on the text line. That's very impressive, but your vote does not count. That said, as much as I'd like to take it away from you because of that, Bobby, everybody else is voting for you too, brother. There's a little bit of Okapi somewhere in the DNA, sir, and it just got you $100 from our friends at OLG.
Oh, you bet your Okapi there is.
There you go. Well, hey, you turn that into part of that $15 million jackpot later on today. You got nickels and dimes for your friends here at the show?
Oh, hell yeah, buddy. I'm paying off your mortgages right away.
The Brock and Dalby Podcast.
the Brock and Dalby Podcast.
Earlier this week, it was Let's Talk Day. And you've probably all heard about that. It is a big day to talk about mental health and to try and remove some of the stigmas around mental health issues. And it is all tied to a broadcast company, one of our competitors, I will say that. And the day itself has some issues people like to bring up every year. But I will say this, if it gets conversations going about mental health, then I do think that it's still important and it has its place here. But I want to say today, on a day that is not Let's Talk Day, on a day that is not a big corporately sponsored day to try and make everybody have a conversation, that your mental health is just as important today as it was on that day and any other day of the year. It doesn't matter what the calendar says, your mental health is important. And I know that there are people who listen every day and they are struggling with their mental health. Now more than ever in 2025, studies and statistics are showing that mental health issues are on the rise, both because times are just tough. It's hard as hell to just live nowadays, but also, thankfully, because more and more people are comfortable admitting and seeking help for mental health issues. So to anybody who is going through it right now, I just want to say, you're important. You matter. Your mental health issues do not define you. They do not make you weak. They do not make you a broken person. And there's always out there people, both in a professional and a personal capacity, that want to listen, that want to hear, and want to help. So if you are feeling like you are weighed down today or any other day, whether there's ads running, commercials running, social media campaigns running, it doesn't matter. Every day, you matter. And your mental health matters, so take care of yourselves.
For more Brock and Dalby, tune in weekday mornings 5:30 to 9.
The Brock and Dalby Podcast is brought to you by badshop.ca, the Brock and Dalby merch store, with all proceeds going to the Canadian Cancer Society.